All right, we're recording. I'm here with Suhail
Forgot
from
to do that too.
Zapper. We're gonna do some Shill in Your Stack. So maybe just like a quick intro. Like what you said you worked mostly on Solidity, but let's dive into like you. What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Suhail. I'm one of the co-founders at Zapper. And if you're not familiar with Zapper is, it's like a DeFi dashboard where you can monitor your assets, your liabilities, and your debts, as well as Zap in, as we call it, Zap in to various opportunities in DeFi like Sushi Swap, Curve, the big guys basically. And mainly I work on smart contracts there. I mean, I kind of do a little bit of everything, but my focus is mostly smart contracts. Um, Yeah, so I work on Zaps on a daily basis, and the integrations of them and stuff like that. So a lot of Solidity stuff. Too much testing. It takes up way too much of my time writing tons of unit and integration tests all day. So basically, I'm a tester. But yeah, we at Zapper we want to make the experience of using DeFi as seamless and easy as possible. So that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do here.
Awesome. Yeah, my use of Zapper has been mostly read only, but the right side is kind of the interesting side and probably a lot of what we'll talk about today. But you said you were just diving into your stack in terms of tools. We kind of just talked through it a little bit off, but now that we're recording, you're kind of moving toward hard hat probably, but you've been using Truffle and you're comfortable with Truffle, and that has been the stack so far. But going forward, you guys are thinking trying new tooling. Is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, we started writing smart contracts at Zapper back when it was DeFi Zap. So like late 2017-ish, 2018-ish, and hard hats didn't exist then. I think Bidler was like just nascent and starting at that point. So yeah, we've been kind of set in our ways, and we've been pretty comfortable with the Truffle stack, and we actually use Open Zeppelin test environment as our testing stack, I guess. And I found that the forked mainnet performance on that is quite a bit better than anything else I've tried, including Hard Hat. But Hard Hat nonetheless has some really nice features. Tons of plugins, of course. Console.log is probably like the killer feature on Hard Hat. So,
which is hilarious. Like when you explain that to other developers, like we finally got console.log, suckers. We can console.log in our code. Like what? Really?
Yeah, you're not like commenting code out and like putting in like fake events.
An event for every line and then following the events. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. That's how we debug Solidity. That's funny. Comment this out. Oh look, it doesn't revert. Awesome. I'm doing something right up to that point. Yeah,
maybe increase the gas limit and see if it goes.
Yeah. 10 million gas. Let's see.
It's gotta go. I've been there. Word.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable, you want to share your screen, we can jump in. I think we were talking about maybe like custom libraries or code to start it off, but maybe you tell us. Oh, I think I have to give you. There we go. Awesome. You should have permission. It'd be cool to get in here and just see like almost some of your magic tricks too, right? Like here's a problem I ran into, and then like here's how I solved it, and it's sometimes with good tooling, those magic tricks. To the magician, it's normal, but to the viewers, it's magic.
Screen recording.
Oh, there we go. We got it.
So I have to quit and reopen apparently.
Okay.
So I will be right back.
Sounds good. And it's just me alone on the recording. To the camera, we've got access to screen sharing. Let me make sure my security settings are right. All right, I think we're ready. If you're ready, let's dive into the screen share. Look at magic tricks and scripts, right? Let's see. How do we?
So hopefully you can see this. It might be a bit big or small.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yep, the Zapper API stack repo.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. So this is basically it's like a snapshot of what we do on the smart contracts repo. So this is your typical setup where you have your contracts folder, your test folder. We have a couple of helpers here. This is the API, which we'll use in the example I'm showing off here to consume transaction data and stuff like that. But anyways, this guy here is available on our repo. I'll give it to Austin to link if you guys are interested. But this guy here is actually this guy right here. So I've already set up the repo. It's a standard repo. You just clone it down, run yarn. And you can run yarn tests to figure out what's going on. So But let me, sorry, one sec. There we go. Too many damn windows open.
Yeah.
So where should I start, Austin? I guess just going over the tech we use in this.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, it's kind of like two-sided. Like one, it's just cool to see like you as a developer building in Ethereum, maybe some of these things, like I was using the magician analogy earlier, but to you, it doesn't seem magic, but to other developers in the space, it's cool to see your process. But then on the other side of this, also, we want to like enable developers to build cool things on Zapper, like the zaps, and we'll dive into that stuff. But you tell me, like you fire it off. You're shilling your stack. I'm watching over here.
Okay.
I'm backseat driving.
Right.
I'm having a great time.
Let's do it. All right. So the stack, like I said earlier, right now is basically Truffle. I'll show you my package JSON here. So yeah, we're running an Open Zeppelin test environment, which, as I stated earlier, is like a reasonable test environment. It has really fast fork mainnet performance. The test helpers here are great for various contextual things that you may need, like converting to Ether, big numbers. You can simulate the passage of time, stuff like that. So it's got all that built in. Axios, just for GET requests, which we use for the API. We got
I've actually never simulated, to go back, I've never simulated the passage of time with blocks. I've never done that before. So
really?
You can set it up to say that like, okay, now, because a lot of these are like state machines where they're checking like, is this time passed? And then we go into a different state or a different mode. I've never actually ran a test where you say, okay, I've made all the transactions I need now. Let's fast forward 150 blocks to when that timestamp is different, and then you fire something else off. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's this guy right here, Open Zeppelin test helpers. And you can just like pick a block that you want to advance to. So you may want to use this if you're maybe developing, I don't know, like a staking contract or something, and you want to see like, how many rewards are accruing. So you can use this. So you start, at a block, you increase the time here, for example, in seconds, or you can pick a block number. And yeah, it's like, you'd expect this example here showing an increase in 2 years. So yeah, I mean, it's useful for certain things. I guess it also is a bit tricky to use. We did try using it for a staking contract back in the day. And what we found was that it's difficult to predict like the actual block time over like a period of like a year or 2 years, because it fluctuates.
So you say, at this time, we're this far, this many blocks or this time, and it actually ends up not being that or something like that. Is that how it works? Interesting.
Yeah. So you're like expecting one number, and then your logs print out something else because less or more time has passed than in reality. So, but yeah, it's a useful tool for sure. But overall, test helpers, we've been happy with it. Show you.
Sorry, we kind of went on a tangent from your package JSON, but that's how we'll do this. Lots of backseat driving. It's great.
Yeah. So this is the guy here.
Okay.
Yeah. So check it out if you're interested. Anyways, so the assertion library and stuff that we use is Chai and Mocha, pretty standard, I think. And then the usual stuff for making coding easier. So that's stuff like Prettier, right? So that formats your Solidity files nicely. There is a plugin for it called Prettier plugin Solidity, which can do stuff like format on save and stuff like that. And then the usual stuff, Solhint, again with the Prettier plugin, Truffle for compiling contracts. And then we have this guy here, Truffle token test utils, which is this here, which actually prints out all of the token transfers that occur on Forks mainnet. We'll get into that later. But yeah, that's the package JSON. We got a couple scripts in here just to run the tests, but more or less pretty standard. So jumping into the contract, actually, should we jump into the contract? Maybe some context would be more important.
Up to you. Yeah, let's go. So we've got the stack, we've got the package.json. Give us some context. That sounds great.
So here's the Solidity file, and I'll show you why you might need this. So we have, I'll go to our docs page here. So we have an API called the Transactions API from Zapper. We also have a Data API. And the Transactions API, as you can see here, is
This is the right
Basically,
side of things. There's sort of the read
exactly.
side where you guys do a great job, like kind of aggregating all my collectibles and
Mhm.
weird degenerate tokens. They all show up over there and I can see all of them and I can see them updated quickly. But then on the other side, there's the write, and you've kind of abstracted the interface with all these different DeFi protocols away to make it easier for me as like a developer to just jump in and kind of interface with any of them. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, the power here is composability. So, I mean, Zapper is already taking full advantage of composability, like with using 0x for our swaps, and then we, interface with Uniswap and SushiSwap and stuff like that. But the idea is that, these steps are taken care of for you as a developer by Zapper, so that you can build on top of them. So, if you're, a brand new protocol or something like that, and you have a token that you want people to provide liquidity for, it's as simple as adding a one button click for your users, and we'll zap into an opportunity, potentially stake it for mining rewards or farming rewards or whatever. So the idea with this transactions API is to, assemble a Zap transaction with, very few parameters. Like, so I'll show you for reference what the smart contract interface is actually like versus the API interface. So these are all our smart contracts. We've got a bunch of them. They're Zaps. So if we look at, let's say,
That's a good
SushiSwap.
point. These abstractions that we're talking about are actually contracts that live on top of the existing contracts that kind of do a few things on your behalf. Is that kind of right?
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, so this guy here is our SushiSwap Zapin. And if you look at the interface here for the Zapin function, there's all this stuff that you need to know. Like the token address. I mean, that's something you're going to have to know regardless, I think. But stuff like the swap target, which would be, the either 0x API or our API, the swap data, which is something that our API generates for you. And the big one here probably, and the most important one, is min pool tokens, which is how we manage slippage. So this is actually pretty involved to calculate. And the way we do it is to, look at the reserves of each of the pools that we're entering in. We compute, the US dollar price of the reserves, and ultimately we come up with something called price per token, which is the US dollar price of each of the LP tokens.
And
And
this is
so
in your
we,
front end, you're doing these calculations, or can you do a read from the contract? If you don't want to write all that complex logic in your front end, can you just read from the contract about like what the actual price, like what should I set my min price to? Will it tell you stuff like that?
yeah, so we actually do this on a backend, on our backend server, but actually, if you look at the data API, that's where all that data will live. So there's kind of some interplay here where you'll first fetch with the data API and then execute with the transactions API.
Got it.
And I can show you an example here. So this is our vault stats endpoint for Urine vaults. And the return looks something like this. So we have like the addresses, the names. This guy here, the price per token, which is what we use for slippage. So the price per token for, I have no idea what vault this is, but for one vault is $1.04. Liquidity, supply of the token, protocol information, decimals, the tokens that the vault is consisting of. So all the contextual data that you may need to figure out how to assemble a transaction is available for you. And we actually have, where is it? Endpoints.
The docs
So
look
we
really
actually have,
clean though. Like this,
oh,
in
thank
terms of
you.
docs pages as a developer, like it looks really nice. It looks like
Well,
something I
thank
could
you.
navigate.
we actually just started this initiative. So, we have a brand new API product manager who's been kicking ass, taking names,
It's
and
awesome.
working on this. So yeah, here's a list of all our endpoints via Swagger stats. So if we look at something like, let's look at the data one, pool stats. So we have pool stats for Balancer, Bancor, Curve, Ellipsis, the list goes on.
I don't even know. I don't even know half those on that list.
Yeah, so there's quite a few here. And you can get the same data for any of those protocols as you saw in the example here in the vol stats and the vol stats guide here. So that's all available for you. You just hit it up like this. It's a really simple GET request. You just append the API key, which we do have available for free somewhere.
And if you're a
Thanks, there we
developer
go.
that wants to get an API key, I'm assuming you just go to docs.zapper.fi, or do you have a dev portal that's a good place to start?
Yeah, just right here. Docs.zapper.fi is, I guess, our
Perfect.
dev portal. And we have the API key here as well. So that's all you need to get started.
Oh, it's like that's like a public here, just
Mhm.
use this one for now.
Use
Like
it. Yeah,
we'll rate limit it by IP address pretty heavily, but we have
we'll
one of
figure
those
out.
like an Infura key for Scaffold ETH too, where it's like it works kind of in a special way that like when we're giving out tools, I feel like I want it to work at first and then fall apart before you go to production. Like you have to productionify it, but I'd love for it to work for you at first so you can get your footing, right? And I think that's kind of what this is about.
Yeah, I mean, we're really trying to attract builders here, right? So the tinkerers, the guys who were used to stuff, potentially breaking occasionally. So I mean, this it's funny because we didn't actually publish this API. So we have an API because we use it at Zapper, obviously, for our front end. If and there's like a lot of calls going on, so hopefully this loads.
Like watching the
But
network tab
yeah,
of
so this is what.
Zapper.fi. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
to aggregate all that information. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
I
I guess a
mean,
lot of it's done by you guys in the back end, right? Like it's not like the browser's going out and pulling the tokens. The browser is talking to some middleware layer that's doing a lot
right,
of the aggregation.
right. So um,
Look at all your
this is awkward.
degenerate tokens.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have a dev wallet and you have like I don't know, $2 in Snow Swap. That's never going to leave because it's too expensive. Like, yeah, so I do a bunch of silly transactions just to test out functionality. Cream, $3.17. Maybe I'll get rich someday. Who knows?
So speaking of the
um,
dev docs looking beautiful, I don't know if we leaned into this at the beginning, but Zapper from the beginning has been pretty beautiful. Like you guys have done a good job with the design and the UX and focusing on making that like nice, clean interface. So yeah, I guess just props on that. But it's still there. Like it's still nice and clean, even with the complexity of the farming and the bridging and the pooling.
yeah, there's a lot going on, and we're going to be adding more tabs up here as well. So we have some plans of what we want to do, stuff like lending, maybe a tokens list or something like that. But anyways, I wanted to show you the network tab here, but apparently our API is not loading, which is awkward. Perfect timing for that. It always has to happen when you're on a call. But
Huh.
anyways,
Yeah. Darn it. Okay. Well, maybe.
um,
What? Is
yeah.
it going?
Anyways,
Okay. Let's skip it.
oh, are we loading? Maybe. Anyways, so yeah, like the users would, or users, the builders would. There we go. So the builders would, come in here and look at, oh, look, they're calling, master chef staking contracts with this endpoint. I'll make it bigger.
Got it. So as a developer, just like back in the day when you could open up the console and kind of tinker with Solidity, you can open up the console and figure out where Zapper is
Yeah,
going to talk to the back end, and you can kind of like
exactly.
permissionlessly grab that and start mimicking those same interactions. Cool.
Yeah, so that's how it started. We had devs who are like, I'm using your API for this project. And we're like, what? How'd you do that? And they're like, oh, I just looked in the network tab and figured it out. And we're like, wow, so builders in this space are very enterprising. They're very, they're builders straight up, right? They're interested in exploring and learning new things all the time. So it was amazing to see. So ultimately, we ended up building this guy here, the docs page, which has everything available to you. And it is reloading.
Yeah, I feel like since we're doing recordings, maybe the Zoom recording. Ooh, even my network dipped there for a little bit.
Yeah, just feeling my Mac. It's getting a little toasty right now. Okay, well, you can take your time loading, I guess. Some other protocols using the API are like Yearn. Maybe you guys have heard of this. So they're actually using our API, our transactions API, to facilitate transactions. So they use the transactions API to allow you to swap any one of your tokens for the vault token. So previously you could enter like the USDC vault only with USDC, but through the power of Zaps, they've enabled entry into this vault with any token that you have in your wallet. So just one example of what you can do. Another one would be Armor.fi. So these guys are actually using the data API to pull all of the positions that you have for your wallet, and then they offer you coverage for only the assets that you have. So you don't have to go out and seek, insurance for a particular asset. It's already presented to you here by the API.
And
So just
if
some
you were the
ideas.
developer that was building something like this, you wanted to maybe list through, aggregate everybody's balance, token balances, you would go to your docs page, you would get an API key, then you would basically, let's see, is it, how would we would probably like clone down some library. Is there like an npm install of your data API? Or just
Nope,
REST? It's REST, isn't it? So
straight
you
up
stored it
REST,
on
yeah.
Swagger. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, and then they would just
So
make the queries they want from the data API. Then is there an aggregator? I guess there probably is. There's probably an endpoint that just says, give me all my aggregated stuff. You don't have to like look through the balances of each one and then ask back for it. There's probably some kind of neat mechanics there.
yeah, so I mean, we can fetch by account. So actually there isn't quite yet an aggregator because
Okay.
we didn't actually have a use for that on Zapper because we wanted to display all of your positions individually anyway. But then the Armor guys are reaching out to us and asking like, could we aggregate this please? Because we're making a million API calls. So, we're taking feedback like that all the time and making improvements. But yeah, you're on the right
Cool.
right path there. But actually, let's show it. We'll show how we could do something like
Neat.
what Urine is doing and what Armor is doing. So that brings me back to this guy here. That's not it. This guy here. So this is our smart contract called Zap Consumer, and the goal of this guy is to consume transaction data, which is call data provided by the Zapper API. So I'll just talk briefly through what this does. It's a super simple contract. It's like, 93 lines. So
just for some context, is this something that you guys as Zapper deploy, or this is something as me as a third-party developer I would deploy?
So this is something that you would deploy.
Okay.
If you wanted to interact with the Zapper transaction data in your own contract. So this guy will execute the Zap for you, like the sushi swap Zap in, or like, a curve Zap in or something like that. And it'll spit back the tokens to this contract. Once you have those tokens, you can do whatever you want with them. You can stake them. You can, send them to like, I don't know, a pool contract. Sky's the limit.
Send them to AustinGriffith.eth.
Yeah, there you go. Burn them at AustinGriffith.eth.
Yeah, that's right. It'll go to a good cause, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy's simple. So we take a sell token address. So let's say ETH, DAI, USDC. We take the quantity that you want to sell. You want to sell 1,000 USDC. The buy token address will be something like a sushi swap pool, a curve pool, a urine vault, a pickle jar, whatever, right? Whatever you want to enter in. The Zap contract is where our API actually comes in. So this guy, actually, the call data and the Zap contract are where the API come in. So the data API here, let's load it up again. So the transactions API, excuse me, here will return to you all the contextual data that you need in order to execute the Zap in. So it returns all this
contextual
stuff.
Data, are you saying the call data? Like it'll package up the ABI encoded
exactly
chunk, yeah. And then you just stick that in. You call that like as an argument with the. Is it a contract call, or is it like raw call data that you're executing? It's more like packaged up, right? It's like a roll up where it's like, here's the packaged up call data within the transaction, and you're going to unroll that and use that to like set up some other stuff. Okay, that's interesting.
Exactly, yeah. So like if you look at this object that we returned from the API, it resembles something that you would use in Web3, which, do I have a link? Yeah, I do. So when you do like web3.eth.send transaction, you're sending in this transaction object, right? Which contains the from address, the to address, the value, the gas price, the data, and the nonce, which conveniently looks exactly like this guy here, which is what you return from the transactions API. And the data here, the call data, which is like this long string of hex.
Oh, it's just like everything for you, and you're just going to sign it. It's like you're like, hey, I'd like to make this transaction. It's like, here you go, and you grab it, you inspect it, you sign it, and you ship it. That's neat.
Good to go.
Nice work.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the call data, and this encodes like the entire Zap transaction with, the 0x swap. We have robust slippage protection in there. We figure out exactly the proportion to swap to get the most output of LP tokens and stuff like that. So that's all encoded here in this data prop here. So that guy goes right here in the call data. And all we're doing once we have that is we're transferring the tokens from the message sender or the user to this contract. We use safe transfer from. So we pull the tokens into this contract, the sell token quantity exactly. And then we have a function called fill quote here, which again, very simple. So we seek approval, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying the swap target is our actual Zap contract. So let's say it's the sushi swap Zap in. So we're saying, hey, we have 1,000 USDC that we've just transferred into this contract, and we want to approve the sushi swap contract to interact with it. So we call approve token, which we're using here infinite allowance, as you can see. Not the best practice, but for gas efficiency purposes, this is a pattern we've opted to use. We previously did use specific allowances for the exact amount, but we found that at 50 to 70K gas to go through this whole process for every transaction, at 200 gwei, is it really worth it? So we decided no, we're just going to go with infinite allowance. So that's what we're doing here. So anyways, we approve the USDC. So the Zap contract can actually spend the USDC contract in this contract here. And then all we do is we execute the call data. All right, so we're calling swap target.call with the value, which if it's Ether is some value, and if it's a USDC, which it is in this case, we send 0 here. Ultimately, the Zap is executed. We do our balance check here to see how many tokens we receive back, which is from the 2 token here. So let's say we're zapping into, I don't know, the die maker sushi pool, and we get LPs back. So this is what this check is actually doing. It's checking how many LPs we receive back, and that's really all there is to it. So the contract executes a Zap, it checks the balance that you receive, and that's it. So at this point, you get your tokens, and the sky's the limit. So you're now holding sushi LP tokens in this contract, so you can send them back to the user the EOA that actually initiated the call, or you can add additional logic onto this contract to perform other steps like staking, whatever you want to do with those LP tokens. And this doesn't have to be a Zap in, so you could encode a stake, for example. So you could stake LPs on behalf of a user if they've already zapped in.
I don't think I understand that. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we actually have in the transactions API, we actually have a staking endpoint as well. So
for certain, okay, so it's like a lot of these protocols have some kind of staking mechanism to them. So you're kind of abstracting out the specific call or whatever, and just say, hey, given this protocol or platform, here's the stake function or something like that. Is that about right? Okay.
Yeah. So imagine you have LPs, and then I don't know, Austin protocol wants to promote liquidity or whatever for his token. So he creates a staking contract where you zap in, for example, to, I don't know, ETH Austin, and then you take those LPs and you stake them into one of these contracts. So Master Chef, Geyser, Gauge, and then this contract will award more Austin, for example, over time. And the idea is to establish liquidity in that pair. And we do that by incentivizing people by basically,
this is the whole liquidity farming thing. And like once we had stable coins, and then we could swap, and then we had to like reserve the liquidity, and then there was like impermanent loss. It's so fun to kind of like speed run the knowledge of this, and back to like Canaan synthetics, just like airdropping people stuff. Like it wasn't built into contracts at all. They were just dripping it to people manually, right? It's a really neat, like fascinating history to go through. It's neat stuff.
Yeah, now everybody uses, or most people use the synthetic staking contract, which is a very popular one. It's very easy to use and set up. So that's one possibility. We also do offer the exchange functionality as well. So in this case, you could execute an actual exchange. So ETH to USDC, whatever you want to do in
What about
actually.
ramps? Have we talked about any kind of like ramps or L2? I know you guys are doing, I've noticed
Mhm.
new networks showing up. Are there zaps that kind of abstract ramping or bridging?
Yep. So check this guy out here. Zap Bridge is what we call it.
Cool.
So we have the destination network right now. It's just Polygon. Um,
Very
but
cool.
we're going to be launching XDAI, obviously Optimism, potentially Binance Smart Chain. But yeah, the same deal. So you could, do a Zap, you could do a swap, you could stake tokens, you could bridge all via the transactions API. And at the end of the day, all you're doing is you're consuming that call data in either a smart contract or a vanilla Web3 call.
So
And the
as a
logic to do that.
developer, yeah, you're abstracting a lot of the work away from me. Is there some overhead? So I mean, there's all these obvious pros, right? Like you're gonna handle a lot of the mental overload for me, and I can just get in here and play with these Legos, right? I can see maybe like there's a little overhead of cost. I can see maybe like if a new protocol comes out, I'm kind of waiting for you to come up with the
Mhm.
Zap. Like, what are some of the maybe skepticisms we could add to this?
Yeah,
And
that's the
and
thing,
also
right? So
like
if
those are slow pitches. We should also be able to talk through like it's really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, like, if we don't yet support a Zap and you're relying completely on Zapper for all of your transaction stuff, then yeah, you're going to be stuck waiting until we, deploy that Zap. And we don't tend to take the most rapid development approach when it comes to smart contracts. Like I like to be really security minded and focused, right? So I'll review a contract, 5, 6 times with um, different perspectives in mind. Like one will be like for gas efficiency, one will be like from a security mindset, one will be just the overall logic if we're doing things in the right order. So yeah, there might be a bit of a waiting time, but on the flip side, we also intend to create like an app store experience where developers would be able to submit their own Zaps, their own protocol and balance fetchers as a plugin. So we do want to make it a community driven effort to enable all of this stuff. But you're right, short term, if you want to zap into, I don't know, snow swap or something, we don't have a zap for that, unfortunately. So, if you're an enterprising developer, you could, fork the curve zap in and create your own, right? But yeah, that's kind of where you're at. So you're kind of starting from the bottom in that case, unfortunately. But that is something we do want to improve. Um,
But it's, I mean, like you're
so yeah,
fighting the battle on the front line. For me as a developer,
yeah.
all these different interfaces and all these different protocols, all are going to have different little idiosyncrasy, little differences. They're all going to be somewhat bespoke, right? So you are getting in and kind of abstracting it away from me and giving me kind of going back to the money Legos thing, right? Like people, it was such a meme for a while, but really, I feel like you guys kind of focused on like let's actually build all these money Legos, and that's kind of what these apps are. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to describe them as money Legos. They're little pieces, building blocks that you can put together to assemble more, complex structures and execute more complex transactions and stuff like that. And this smart contract is, the very basics of it. We're literally just executing call data. Like this is the meat and potatoes of it right here. This line. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's
there's a
awesome.
lot more
Yeah.
complexity you can. There's a lot more complexity you can build on top of this, obviously. But Zapper can't do everything, right? So we want builders to do that, to take the torch and to come up with these novel, I guess, structures and stuff like that for users to use. And we want to provide the base layer building blocks, so like the sushi zaps and the zapins, the uni zapins, like the really low level base layer stuff um, that enables developers to build on top of them.
Awesome, man.
Um,
Let me throw like what would be some good links? Let's get some links together and we'll throw them in like I'll throw this on YouTube and we'll throw some links down in the bottom for people to pick up. I feel like your docs page is an obvious one,
mhm.
but what are some other ones here?
I mean, I'd say the docs page is probably the go-to to start out with. I
Right.
think it has pretty much everything you need. Obviously, there's this repo as well that we're looking at. This is available on our GitHub page, um,
Oh, the
which
the
goes
specific
through,
one for this session. Is that what you're talking about? The Shill Your Stack?
Yeah.
GitHub. Okay, cool.
So
Let
this
me
is
make
a
sure I link
this
that.
is a pretty generalized, yeah, it's a pretty generalized example of how to, use the API and stuff like that. I guess the Swagger one would be good as well, although that's linked in the docs page already.
Okay.
And our Discord page would be good as well,
Ooh,
because we
yeah.
have a build on Zapper Discord, where we have builders asking questions and giving us feedback and stuff. So
That's
we should
great.
have
So
a
if you have
link.
a
Yeah,
question, a
join
good
on
place to
Discord.
go is to drop into your drop into your Discord and just ask there. Is that right?
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, and
Awesome.
we have people ready and waiting to answer your questions about it. Yeah, I'd say probably start out with the docs page. I think that's the best place to start out with.
Great.
We
Awesome.
have all the examples here that you need.
Well, thank you,
Yeah,
Suhail, this has been fun, man. Thanks for shilling your stack. I hope that some developers pick this up and kind of build some neat stuff with it. I mean, they
yeah,
already
me
are
too.
doing it, but I hope the random ones that are checking out my YouTube also pick it up and go build. What
Yeah,
starting off advice would you have them? I think you've already said docs page, but like, what's the our North Star here as developers jumping into the Zapper docs? Is it to build new things and feed them back to you guys? Is it to like push boundaries and inspire? What are we up to?
yeah. I mean, push boundaries and inspire is what we want to see, right? But also, we also want to learn about your struggles, right, and where we can help with that. So if you're using our API and you realize that we don't have something that we should have, we want to hear about it so we can fix it. But ultimately, we want you to push the limits of what can be done with the API, with the Zaps and stuff like that. As starting out advice, I guess, is take a look at this repo. It's bare bones. Like, you don't need a whole lot to get started in coding with Solidity, right? You don't need a complex stack with hard hat and type chain and TypeScript and all this stuff to get started. Scaffold.eth obviously is a great way to get started. Use that.
Good chill.
Hit up the transactions API. Maybe put in a pull request on Austin's Scaffold.eth repo for other people to play around with. And just go to town and have fun with it.
That would be cool.
Just
So with
what
Scaffold ETH, we do a lot of like prototyping and kind of sandboxing. Maybe it would be fun to pull in some Zaps there and have them just kind of like all available for people somehow. I don't know. We should talk more about that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Have a look at the repo. We have an example of how to actually use the data API and the transactions API here. Simple Axios request, and you're good to go. So yeah,
Awesome,
there we
dude.
have it.
I will put all those in the notes of the YouTube, and I'll send it to you. Suhail, thanks for
Sounds
being here,
good.
man. Thanks for shilling
Thank you,
your
Austin.
stack. Yep. All right.
All
See
right.
you. Thank you.